The highway of death. The night desert storm turned brutal. In the final days of the Gulf War, Iraqi forces began to retreat. Columns of vehicles streamed north out of Kuwait under cover of darkness. Tanks, trucks, armored personnel carriers, civilian cars mixed among military convoys. What they did not know was that coalition aircraft were already watching. From miles above the desert, sensors tracked their movement in real time. By morning, a single stretch of highway would be transformed into one of the most haunting images of modern warfare. Burned vehicles stretched as far as the eye could see. The war was nearly over. But this moment would come to define how it was remembered. This was the highway of death. The night desert storm turned brutal. By late February of 1991, the outcome of Operation Desert Storm was no longer in doubt. 6 weeks of sustained air attacks had shattered Iraq's ability to coordinate its forces. Command centers were destroyed, supply lines were severed, radar systems were silenced, entire units had been isolated long before coalition ground forces crossed into Kuwait. When the ground offensive finally began, it moved with overwhelming speed. Coalition units advanced faster than Iraqi commanders could react. Defensive lines collapsed. Surrender became widespread. For Iraqi forces inside Kuwait, the reality was clear. The war was lost. Orders began filtering down to withdraw north, toward Iraq, not as an organized redeployment, but as a desperate retreat. For many soldiers, survival replaced strategy. The primary route north was Highway 80, a long, exposed road connecting Kuwait City to the Iraqi city of Basra. Under normal conditions, it was simply a highway. That night, it became a bottleneck. Thousands of vehicles poured onto the road. Military transport trucks, armored vehicles, fuel tankers, civilian cars, some taken from Kuwait during the occupation. Discipline began to break down. Vehicles stalled. Others ran out of fuel. Some were abandoned where they sat. From the air, the retreat did not resemble an organized withdrawal. It looked like a collapse in motion. Coalition surveillance aircraft tracked the convoy as it moved north through the desert. Every vehicle, every turn, every slowdown. The retreating column stretched for miles, and it was completely exposed. Coalition commanders faced a decision. The vehicles on Highway 80 belonged to an enemy force still armed, still organized, and still capable of regrouping inside Iraq. Under the laws of war, retreating military forces are legitimate targets unless they surrender. No surrender had occurred. The decision was made to strike. The first attacks focused on the front and rear of the convoy. Leading vehicles were destroyed. The road became blocked. With nowhere to turn and nowhere to escape, vehicles became trapped in place. Follow-on strikes intensified. Aircraft attacked with precision. Missiles and bombs struck vehicles one after another. Explosions lit the desert night. For those inside the convoy, panic spread quickly. Some attempted to flee on foot into the darkness. Others abandoned their vehicles and hid among the wreckage. The highway became a battlefield, not defined by maneuver or lines, but by destruction and confinement. From above, the strikes were methodical. From below, they were catastrophic. When the sun rose, the scale of the destruction became impossible to ignore. Charred vehicles littered the road. Burned-out hulks sat bumper to bumper. The remains of tanks, trucks, and civilian cars lay scattered across the desert. Smoke drifted upward in the still morning air. Coalition ground forces approaching the area encountered a scene unlike anything they had seen before. The retreat had ended in annihilation. Photographs and video footage quickly spread across the world. Images of the highway, silent, scorched, and crowded with wreckage, became synonymous with the end of the war. For many observers, this was the first moment when Desert Storm no longer felt distant or clean. The cost of modern warfare was suddenly visible, and it was disturbing. Almost immediately, debate followed. Was the attack militarily justified, or had it gone too far? Supporters argued that the convoy represented an active enemy force, retreating with weapons and equipment. Destroying it prevented regrouping, it shortened the war, and it likely saved coalition lives. Critics focused on the imagery. They questioned whether the retreating forces posed a real threat. They pointed to the presence of civilian vehicles. They argued that the strike crossed a moral line. The highway of death became less about the tactical decision and more about perception. In modern warfare, perception matters. Wars are not only fought on battlefields, they are fought in public opinion, in media coverage, in memory. The strike on Highway 80 forced the world to confront a difficult reality. Even a fast, decisive war carries moments of devastation. In the years that followed, Desert Storm would often be remembered as a model of modern warfare. Quick, decisive, overwhelming. But the Highway of Death complicated that narrative. It reminded observers that modern technology does not eliminate suffering. It concentrates it. The images endured because they told a different story, not of victory, but of consequence. The Highway of Death was not the longest battle of Desert Storm. It was not the bloodiest engagement of the war, but it became one of the most remembered, because it captured a moment when speed, power, and technology collided with human vulnerability. A reminder that even at the end of a war, destruction does not pause politely. History isn't only written in victories, it's remembered in moments like these. If you value deep, documented war history, consider subscribing. New stories are released regularly. This was The War Lore.